Thank you, and thank you to the RIU for the opportunity to speak today. The Xanadu story is a pretty simple one. It's about exploration and about delivering discoveries, and after all, coming out of a large downturn like we've had over the last 10 years, I think the excitement should be and is around about new discoveries. And after all, it's these new discoveries that often come when you see seismic shifts that we've seen from turning from a downturn to an upturn. And Xanadu is very much an exploration-focused company and looking at delivering a large copper and gold discovery in Mongolia. And I think over the last 4 years, from the work we've done, it's very much getting in at the bottom of the market, identifying a project that had potential, had scale, had grade, and it's about putting your skill to work and really unravelling the project and delivering, a world-class discovery. And Hamagtai, which is our flagship project, is one of those discoveries. And certainly at the moment we see some very large intercepts. We're just continuing to drill 600-metre intervals of 1% copper. And more importantly, as you'll see, this is a project that outcrops at surface and is located straight close to infrastructure. But more to Xanadu, it's about having a portfolio of projects, and after 15 years in the exploration business, the key things to make a successful group is not only having the project, but it's having the management team, and it's more important to be funded to keep drilling. And we all know that value is at the drill bit. That's really the key strategy of Xanadu. We've seen lots of curves and lots of graphs in the last few days about supply and demand of various commodities, but I'd argue that the real issue at the moment is a lack of discoveries. And when you look at exploration and when you look at the life cycle of exploration, sometimes can go up to 10 years. We know that for large copper projects. But it's about the pipeline that's out there. And what we've put together here is a graph with copper grades at the top, copper equivalent grades and depths. And we look at some of those bigger deposits, many of which haven't moved over the last 10 years, deposits such as Pebble, deposits such as Ricky Dick. This is due to geopolitical reasons or environmental issues. But we looked at, Hamagtai, it sits right in those perfect grades, right at the perfect depth. And it's about building the scale. And once you have that grade, it's about increasing the scale and moving it up the curve. And really, it's pretty depressing when you look out there at the moment, the lack of copper projects. And when you think that porphyry supplies 60% of the world's copper, there's a real lack of them out there at the moment. And this is really where we fit into the equation. So Xanadu, just broadly, is a snapshot. 24 cents. We've got a market cap of just over $140 million Australian. We have a very, very good register, very strong institutional base, and about 60% of the register owns about 20% of the stock. So it's a solid base, and we've put together a very, very strong board, and that's an important part of the success and driving forward. Where are we? We're located in Mongolia. Mongolia is located right in the middle of the Central Asian Fold Belt, and this is a genuine world-class porphyry district. And if we look at the graph there, what makes this world-class is you see multiple generations of world-class deposits occurring, basically over a period from the Devonian all the way through to the Jurassic. And there's multiple belts, and this is what's exciting, because really when you look at porphyry belts, and such as Chile, it's having those world-class occurrences over many different geological periods. And that gives you the opportunity for success in this business. And Mongolia was chosen because it sits right in the middle of that. And Mongolia, it's a small country. It's about the same size of Alaska. It's a very small population of only 3.5 million. But it's got about half a dozen porphyry belts. And 2 of those belts that have been explored over the last 2 decades host Tier 1 assets in Erdenet in the north, and the giant Oyu Tolgoi deposit in the south. And very little exploration outside these belts. So this was a key opportunity for a company to get in at the bottom of the market when a lot of companies were distracted, worried about bankruptcy or liquidity, and distracted from picking ground up. Xanadu was able to get in and secure 3 very good projects with the Yellow Mountain in the north, the Red Mountain in the eastern part of the Southern Gobi Fold Belt, and Hamagtai, which I'm going to talk about today, which is very much our flagship project and is the focus of a lot of our drilling today. So where are we in the South Gobi? Hamagtai is located about 120 kilometres north of the giant Oyu Tolgoi deposit. Keeping in mind, this is the only Tier 1 asset that's been built in the last 2 decades anywhere in the world. We're located along a favourable structural corridor. That's a deep-seated structure that can tap these fluids that come up from deep and bring these copper systems. This is an area where there's a lot of development. We're in the shadows of the 3rd biggest copper mine in the world, We have paved roads, we've got water, it's a fully permitted mining licence. So a lot of those factors that make development anywhere in the world, we're blessed with, and we don't have to worry too much about this. So for us, it's really about the project, the technical risks, and you can manage those with good geology. Just a quick look at Hamagtai. As I said, this is Mongolia. It's really God's gift to explorers. It's the most sparsely populated country in the world. It's flat, we don't have mountains, we don't have civil unrest, you don't have malaria, all those things that make exploration difficult and or expensive. Mongolia has the advantage of these. And if you look at the exploration that's been done, this is from outcropping mineralisation, and free deposits have been defined today in this larger district. We all know porphyries occur as clusters, but the exploration to date has found mineralisation and resources at Stockwork Hill, Copper Hill and White Hill. And one of the key things in most of this district is it sits under shallow sand cover. So exploration is focused on extending these and continuing to find the centres of high-grade mineralisation. A little background, it's often in this business, it's the third or the fourth company that's successful in a given district from the discovery. And the exploration in this particular district started in 95 and 98 with a junior gold explorer out of Canada. In 2001, Ivanhoe earned into the project as it acquired Oyu Tolgoi and had successful exploration there. Between 2001 and 2006, invested about $40 million of direct exploration into the ground. And as Oyu Tolgoi became bigger, a lot of the exploration got interrupted and got focused towards Oyu Tolgoi. And in 2008, the project exploration stopped. And then Xanadu entered the project in 2014, acquired the project from Turquoise Hill and picked up where the exploration had stopped. And this was that vision and that understanding of a project that had both scale and grade that's giving us the success now. The geology is pretty simple. It's an intrusive complex, but most of it sits under shallow sand cover. And you see that ocean of white, that's the sand cover. With a lot of the exploration focused at Stockwork Hill and White Hill, the resources were defined quite early on. And what's interesting about those resources is that they're typically porphyry mineralisation, but very gold rich, but they have high-grade centres and a multiple complex system of breccias and stockwork really sold us this system was dynamic and covered about 30 square kilometres with only 10% of the area drilling, which produced a resource of about 200 million tonnes of 0.5 to 0.6 copper equivalent. And when you look for projects, this is a fully optimised resource, but we really like the eye of these high-grade parts of these systems of 1% copper equivalent and occurring at surface. So it offered you the low strip ratio and the opportunity to extend it, because we all know these systems have vertical extents of over 1 kilometre. It was just a matter of getting in there, understanding the intrusive phases, understanding the structure and continuing to drill. Just a quick look at the style of mineralisation. This is a typical porphyry mineralisation that occurs in the upper parts of the system. We see laminated quartz veins here, very high grade, 4% copper, 8 grams gold. It's a 2-to-1 gold to copper ratio. Metallurgically good recoveries and no arsenic and high gold grades, because this is what you're really looking for in these copper systems, looking for very, very good gold credits. And you can see from the drilling there, we're continuing to extend these resources deeper down with multiple intervals of hundreds of metres of 1% copper from surface. One of the key understandings that's really come out in the last 6 months of this project and turned it from a project where mineralisation existed in the top 200 metres to extending mineralisation down to 600 and down to 1 kilometre is the introduction of this breccia phase. And that was just good geology and really coming along. And you can see these fingers of purple rock coming up. The recognition that this system is another system coming over the top of the stockwork has really added some substantial tonnage to this system and also grades. And again, following that tourmaline and understanding the dynamics of these porphyry systems has added a huge amount. You can continue to see multiple zones of 100 metres wide zones outside the current resources that's turning this into a very, very, very big project. And really, over the last 6 months, we can look at a long section here, and this is over 2.5 kilometres wide. It's about 1 kilometre long, and we can see three of the zones there at Copper Hill, White Hill and Stockwork Hill. And you can see the drilling, the impact of understanding the geology's made on this. And again, this is understanding that there's a breccia system exacting. And again, we can see multiple intervals of these red zones of hundreds of metres of 1% copper equivalent that are outside. And really one of the key things and one of their successes is linking some of these pits and turning this into what was a 200 million tonne resource into something that's approaching world-class standard with good grades and good gold credits. And that exploration, you can see, is a really clear growth profile. And when you look at districts, it's important to control a district where they often occur as clusters, but with several drill holes and continued drilling and having fortitude to drill, is extending the mineralisation here. You can see Stockwork Hill, there's been substantial increases in the resources there, likewise White Hill and the high-grade Copper Hill. And more recently, we've started to recognise that Target 19 may represent another porphyry centre, with 2 drill holes in progress at the moment with some exciting results, and that represents a large phyllic blanket, and the system has been downthrown 100 metres or so we're looking for duplications of these systems at depth, and drilling there will be exciting over the next 6 months. As we said earlier, this is a district scale project. It's important to control a district because you don't want to have a discovery and then have someone else work on your ideas and hide it. So, we were quite focused on establishing a control of the district, and you can see the main resources at Stockwork Hill, White Hill covering that area, which is about 10% of the system. The rest of it sits under shallow sand cover. So following a bedrock drilling program that consisted of about 400 drill holes, we found that the average thickness of the sediment or the sand cover, the wind-blown sand cover, was about 28 metres. And we really attacked this with an approach of using trace element geochemistry to help vector into other centres in this district. And you can see here the results of that bedrock drilling program have really opened up, which is quite a significant zone of geochemistry. And as I said, we didn't need to rely on the trace element geochemistry. In my experience, the best vectors to copper and gold are copper and gold. And you can see this area here covering about 30 square kilometres with about 15 discrete targets. And really, the system at the moment is about continuing to look at these systems and evaluate them one by one. This is a huge district. 3 of the projects that have already been drilled have given up resources, and several of these targets have already given economic grades over broad intervals. So it's an exciting project. It's still early stages, but it's growing quite rapidly. And I think really what we're looking for here, and when you look at copper projects, these are very highly valuable discoveries, and we believe that we'll get a premium in the future, because if you look at the benchmark in Wafi, these are not big areas. These are ore bodies that are 200 by 200 metres, 26 million ounces of gold, 8 million tonnes of copper. Like, these are fantastic discoveries. And you heard earlier from the DGR group, SolGold had a fantastic discovery in Ecuador, and that's a great discovery below a lithic blanket. And you look where we are out in Tolgoi, which is our Stockwork Hill deposit. Exploration's only been in the upper 300 to 400 metres, but we're starting to extend and show that the system extends to a kilometre's depth. So very, very valuable discoveries, and certainly sought by most of the world's largest companies. And just in terms of scale, I think it's important when you look at districts and you hear about copper grades and you hear about depths, etc. But when you have that shallow mineralisation, and particularly substantial resources at surface, it really helps pull together the district. And when you look at Oyu Tolgoi, it's those open cut pits at southwest in the central part of the map there that are in production today that really allow the project to move forward and continue to explore deeper. And you can see the progressions that we have at Amugtai, where much of the mineralisation to date is at surface, but we're starting to look undercover, and a few more discoveries, if not 1 or 2, will make a huge impact to this project that already has substantial resources. So Xanadu, we're probably one of the most aggressive exploration companies, or an ASX-listed company outside Australia. We're drilling currently with 4 rigs, and we have been doing that for most of the cold winter in Mongolia. And it's an accelerated program of multiple projects. The potential of the district's very clear now from the regional bedrock drilling, which is defined over 19 targets. The exploration drilling has extended the resources significantly below and around the current resources. And we're seeing very good results from our other portfolio projects, particularly Red Mountain, where we continue to see multiple drill results of 200 metres, 1% copper equivalent for surface. So drilling will resume there when the snow melts, and we'll be focused on the near surface priority targets in that district. So that's really the Xanadu story. It's a story of, it's a pretty simple story, but it's about delivering discoveries, understanding the risks, and managing that with good geology. and hopefully delivering some good return to shareholders with a very good discovery. Thank you very much.